proceedings during the week of July 22nd, 2024, in America's most watched criminal trial. But that doesn't mean there weren't plenty of happenings and motions and court filings. We're, of course, talking about the trial of international recording superstar Young Thug here in Atlanta. I'm Tim Darnell, joined by our on-the-beat reporter, Rachel Aragon, who's been following this trial for the many months that has been going on. Rachel, we have a new judge, and she held a status hearing last week, and she kind of laid the law down to all of the cast of characters in a criminal proceeding that's really just become a must-watch for fans of Young Thug and for anyone who wants a fascinating behind-the-scenes look at America's judicial process.
Yeah, certainly a new sheriff in town, and we saw that last week. I think most people noticed, too, her first day on the job, if you will. She started early, if not on time, and that was one of the things she really stressed during that status hearing. She wants to get this trial moving because we were reminded this has been going on for 19 months since jury selection and 7 to 8 months with testimony and jury as well. So she made it very clear. She wants to start on time. She wants to get it moving, and as you said, Tim, she certainly laid down the law and guidelines, if you will, kind of like a teacher would on the first day of school, talking about how she expects the state to have a reasonable witness list and really nail down to what the acts are when they do call up these witnesses. And she also covered other things as well, things like no eating, of course, no headphones, just kind of cleaning up, if you will, the last 7 or 8 months that we've seen to really get this trial moving because, as she said, and many people think, it's been going on for a long time now.
Now, we also saw a number of motions, a lot of replies, judicial replies from both sides of the aisle this past week. Kind of unusual since the trial is in recess, but we're looking at in-court proceedings actually resuming next week. Take us through a little bit about all of the motions that were filed over the past week.
Was the one filed by defense that's been going on for so long, it being this 19-month trial. And the point he makes in his motion is that this substitute judge, if you will, he says it really doesn't make sense. In his motion, he says this means a judge now, 19 months in and 7, 8 months into testimony, has to come in, get caught up, which he basically makes the point argument. In his eyes, it's virtually impossible. How do you catch up on months and months of testimony, all these motions and rulings? So that was just one motion, but that one definitely stood out to me. The state as well, though, also filed their share of motions and responses. And I also wanted to highlight the state's response. If you recall, Judge Rachel Krause, though, for the most part, when she recused Judge Glanville, she generally felt that June 10th meeting was more or less proper. And the state's coming back against Brian Steele, Young Thug's attorney, and saying, see, we also believe there's nothing wrong with this June 10th meeting. But the other motion by the state that I particularly, maybe yourself, found very interesting was the motion the state filed that says they're asking the judge to prohibit defense attorneys from commenting and speaking publicly to the media. We've talked to several defense attorneys, and not just us, other media outlets as well, both written statements and, of course, on camera. And so now with this new judge, it appears the state's trying to see if they can get this passed. Again, having defense attorneys being prohibited from speaking to the media. So a lot going on, and Judge Whitaker definitely has a full plate come next week when she has to go through all these motions.
And she's adamant that the trial is going to proceed. We don't foresee any other delays unless she does indeed grant some of the motions for mistrial. You and I have both talked, we would love for the defense attorneys or people who are involved in the trial to give us commentary. I really haven't seen where there's been an issue of attorneys making improper statements to the media. I mean, what's your take on that?
You know, obviously I agree as well, but I'm not the judge. I will say that it was interesting. Doug Weinstein, one of the defense attorneys on Twitter and also elsewhere online, spoke out after that motion was filed to basically what he was saying, kind of silence defense attorneys. He says he plans to keep on speaking and defending his client unless the judge tells him he can't. So I expect defense attorneys probably to still continue doing the same pace, of course, they've been doing for the last few months now. But Judge Whitaker, again, definitely has her hands full and her plate full come next week. So it'll be interesting, I think, to see just how quickly she can move this trial along compared to when we were with Judge Glanville, which it seemed like, Tim, every other day there was bumps in the road.
There was, and yeah, I'd love to hear your input on this. As we were watching the status hearing a week ago, Judge Whitaker was introducing herself, admitting that she hasn't been following the trial, but it was very unreal because the courtroom setting was the same. Adrienne Love, Fulton County prosecutors, were sitting in their normal slot. We had the defense attorneys sitting there, and yet there's a new judge, a new court reporter. This was held just between her and the attorneys. None of the co-defendants, Young Thug or any of the other co-defendants were present. No jury present. And yet, I was wondering, I wonder how long it's going to take, or even if it will happen or not, for Judge Whitaker to become as exasperated, for lack of a better word, as Judge Glanville was with the entire cast of characters. How long will this happen? Will there come a point where she is really starting to wonder why in the world this assignment landed in her courtroom?
She may be wondering that right now, but I want to point to something she said that was very clear to many during the status hearing. She said she hasn't been following too much of the trial, but she did say what she has seen, bits and pieces. It's been a little bit less than professional, is how she said it. She says tempers had flared, and she wanted to make it very clear to attorneys she does not want that to happen, or else she will step in. And again, I liken that status hearing to the first day of school because really that was just laying down the groundwork. What we're going to start seeing this coming week will really begin the beginning of debating motions. Later on, probably, we'll see witnesses come through. So that'll be the real test to see if tempers flare or if things will be calm and decorum will be here. I think Judge Whitaker, like you said, is very aware of what has happened, though, in terms of tempers flaring. So my guess is if it gets to that point or starts building, she'll probably step in sooner than later because she doesn't want a continuation of what we've seen for the last 7-8 months when the jury's been present.
And we have to also think about what the jury is thinking right now. Have they gone back to their regular vocations and daily schedules over the past 3 weeks? If I recall, Judge Whitaker said that a tentative return to the courtroom for the jury is the week after next, not next week, but the week after. What's the jury have to be thinking about this entire lengthy delay in the process?
I want to know if they're enjoying their vacation, right? Because it's been 7-8 months that they've been doing this. But I keep on thinking about the state in this position because if I'm them, I'm thinking the more days this drags out, the longer your memory gets a little severed, if you will. I can't even remember too much what I did last week or heard from last week in names, if you will. So if we can remind people, they've been out of the courtroom for weeks, right? If not nearly a month at this point. So if I'm the state or the prosecutors, I want to get this ball rolling, right? Because they have to remember everything that's been presented for them over the last 5 or 6, 7, 8 months. So time is of the essence, and I really do think there is many people in this trial who are invested in getting the ball rolling as quickly as possible.
And it's something that we're going to continue following. Atlanta News First has all of the latest digital and broadcast updates on America's most watched criminal trial, that being the one happening right here in Atlanta, here in Fulton County Superior Court, the trial of Young Thug and YSL. Thanks to all of you for joining us, and stay with Atlanta News First and AtlantaNewsFirst.com for all of the latest breaking developments in the trial of Young Thug here in Atlanta.